New satellite imagery at Iran's Fordow nuclear site shows work vehicles and, quote, a flurry of activity 1 week after the U.S. dropped bunker buster bombs on 3 nuclear sites. The New York Times is writing this. By June 27th, Iran had already filled in a large crater at the site's entrance left by the Israeli strikes. A few days earlier, Iran does not appear to be beginning any type of reconstruction or repairs to the enrichment facility itself. President Trump halting plans to ease sanctions on Iran after the Ayatollah declared victory over Israel in the U.S. The president wrote this on Truth Social: "I am not offering Iran anything, unlike Obama, who paid them billions under the stupid Road to a Nuclear Weapon JCPOA, which would now be expired, nor am I even talking to them, since we totally obliterated their nuclear facilities." The White House says Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in contact with Iran. Joining me now, former CIA station chief who served in Moscow, Iraq, and Pakistan, and, of course, a Fox News contributor, Daniel Hoffman. Dan, good morning. Your reaction to this new news that we're getting out of Iran, sir?
Yeah, well, my first reaction is this is why battle damage assessments take a little bit of time. I encountered this numerous times at the CIA when kinetic U.S. military launched kinetic strikes, and it took us time, weeks and sometimes longer, to collect human intelligence, which is the foundation for battle damage assessments. And then our analysts would sift through that along with overhead reconnaissance, which is what you're seeing, and communications intercepts, so that we can give the president an accurate assessment of what actually was destroyed, and then reflections on what Iran's plans and intentions are going forward. That leaked DIA report, intelligence assessment, was wildly premature. And it also sends a chilling effect to our sources who might be concerned about how we protect their information. It just takes a little bit of time, and that's what we're doing right now. I guarantee you that Director CIA John Ratcliffe and his team in the intelligence community are doing just that.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Dan, because I did want to ask you about that. I mean, you know, as a novice in all of this, I mean, I assume satellites, those imaging, that takes time, and then the on-the-ground assessments take time. But how much time? Are we talking weeks? Are we talking months? Because the Iranians have basically closed all doors around them. It's not like they're letting nuclear inspectors in there. That's over. Although it is, I think, a piece of good news that Steve Witkoff is having some type of dialogue with the Iranians.
Yeah, I'm sure the White House is asking for an assessment yesterday. So you want to get it done as quickly as you can. Absolutely. And in my experience, it just depends on the particular strike that we took. Sometimes if we're taking out a leader of al-Qaeda or an al-Qaeda operative, it could be days or weeks before we have confirmation. But it's so important to get this right, because it's really a baseline for what still exists, if anything, inside Iran, so that when we proceed to the next stage, which looks like it might be negotiations and maybe inspections designed to ensure that Iran could never have a nuclear program, or the president has said he would launch further attacks if needed. And that's important, because one thing we demonstrated is that we can bomb Iran at will. And that should give us deterrence for any Iranian retaliation, but also the ability to induce Iran into a longer-term settlement.
Right. I've got Tiana Lodesher on set. She's got a question for you, Dan. Go ahead, Tiana.
Obviously, the American bunker-busting operation couldn't have happened without Israel's human intelligence, of course, them going after Hezbollah, Hamas. But another major player in this has been Syria, right? Syria, the new regime, was able to keep that airspace open to allow us to do the unprecedented. This would have been unthinkable as recently as 2 years ago. Donald Trump just announced he's removing sanctions against the Syrian regime. They remain under Bashar al-Assad, but not against the new rulers. Is this a new Middle East?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I feel like every day is a new Middle East when we've seen, you know, everything that's happened over the past couple of years. Israel has decimated Hezbollah and Hamas. They're both spent forces. We've taken the fight to the Houthis, and as you mentioned, Assad's government toppled. President Trump met with the Syrian leader al-Shara, and we're giving the Syrians a chance. We need to ensure that Syria is no longer Iran's proxy terrorist state, and that they themselves deal with the terrorist challenge that they face from ISIS. And so, yes, all of this very coordinated to the point where Israel took out reportedly 11 Iranian scientists as well. This was just an extraordinarily well-coordinated an effective military operation.
So I want to ask you about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, excuse me. So he's going to be visiting the White House next Monday as President Trump continues to push for a ceasefire in Gaza. I guess with the Iran strikes behind us, it's time to focus on Gaza and the situation there. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
This administration is in constant communication with Israeli leadership, and the president himself speaks frequently, as you know, to Prime Minister Netanyahu. But this has been a priority for the president since he took office, to end this brutal war in Gaza. It is because of this president that humanitarian aid is being brought into the region. It's heartbreaking to see the images that have come out from both Israel and Gaza throughout this war, and the president wants to see it end.
Dan, your reaction to that?
Yeah, I think that's laudable. Of course, we want to see the war end. The challenge is that Hamas is demanding full Israeli withdrawal and a ceasefire. And Israel's not quite done degrading Hamas as a military force. And the concern is about what the day after looks like. What's the alternate government? Mm-hmm. Its situation there is awful with a humanitarian crisis that is going potentially to lead to more recruitment to Hamas if we don't get it right. So it's important that President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu get together and discuss just that, where we see this conflict going down the road.
And that's always the question that's been, you don't want to leave a power vacuum in a place like Gaza. We've seen that happen in other countries in recent memory. And look at what happened, whether it was Iraq and Saddam Hussein or what we saw in Libya, and I think that same question, Dan, real quick, is also the question with Iran. Say that the Ayatollah is gone, who takes their spot? It could be somebody far more dangerous and radical, if that's possible, than Khomeini.
Yeah, look, historically, we've seen just that. You look at the collapse of the Soviet Union, resulted in the KGB operative in the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, taking over. The strong usually are the ones who are able to deal with that transition. In Iran's case, it's the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, the pipe hitters, their intelligence services and the military. Iran could look a lot worse, believe it or not, down the road than it does right now, depending upon how a transition plays out there. So that's another thing we have to be concerned about. That's why we need to defang them now before any regime change, if any does happen inside Iran organically.
There you go. Dan Hoffman, it's great to see you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
You too. Have a good day. Happy 4th.
You too. We'll be right back, everybody.